The Law of One, Book 1, Part 33, Session 16, January 31, 1981. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner. I would like to ask, considering the free will distortion of the Law of One, how can the guardians quarantine the earth? Is this quarantine within free will? I am Ra. The guardians guard the free will distortion of the mind-body-spirit complexes of third density on this planetary sphere. The events which required activation of quarantine were interfering with the free will distortion of mind-body-spirit complexes. Questioner. I may be wrong, but it seems to me that it would be the free will of, say, the Orion Group to interfere. How is this balanced with the information which you just gave? I am Ra. The balancing is from dimension to dimension. The attempts of the so-called crusaders to interfere with free will are acceptable upon the dimension of their understanding. However, the mind-body-spirit complexes of this dimension you called third form a dimension of free will which is not able to, shall we say, recognize in full the distortions towards manipulation. Thus, in order to balance the dimensional variances in vibration, a quarantine, this being a balancing situation whereby the free will of the Orion Group is not stopped but given a challenge. Meanwhile, the third group is not hindered from free choice. Questioner. Could these windows that occur to let the Orion Group come through once in a while having to do with this free will balancing? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. Could you tell me how that works? I am Ra. The closest analogy would be a random number generator within certain limits. Questioner. What is the source of this random number generator? Is it created by the guardians to balance the guarding, or is it a source other than the guardians? I am Ra. All sources are one. However, we understand your query. The window phenomenon is an other self phenomenon from the guardians. It operates from the dimensions beyond space-time in what you may call the area of intelligent energy. Like your cycles, such balancing, such rhythms are as a clock striking. In the case of the windows, no entities have the clock. Therefore, it seems random. It is not random in the dimension which produces this balance. That is why we stated the analogy was within certain limits. Questioner. Then this window balancing prevents the guardians from reducing their positive polarization by totally eliminating the Orion contact through shielding. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is partially correct. In effect, the balancing allows an equal amount of positive and negative influx, this balanced by the mind-body-spirit distortions of the social complex. Thus, in your particular planetary sphere, less negative, as you would call it, information or stimulus is necessary than positive due to the somewhat negative orientation of your social complex distortion. Questioner. In this way, total free will is balanced so that individuals may have an equal opportunity to choose service to others or service to self. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner. This is a profound revelation. I believe in the law of free will. Thank you. This is a minor question further to make an example of this principle. But if the Confederation landed on Earth, they would be taken as gods, breaking the law of free will and thus reducing their polarization of service to all. I assume that the same thing would happen if the Orion Group landed. How would this affect their polarization of service to self if they were able to land and became known as gods? I am Ra. In the event of mass landing of the Orion Group, the effect of polarization would be strongly toward an increase in the service to self, precisely the opposite of the former opportunity which you mentioned. Questioner. If the Orion Group was able to land, would this increase their polarization? What I'm trying to get at is it better for them to work behind the scenes to get recruits, shall we say, from our planet, the person from our planet going strictly on his own using free will, Or is it just as good for the Orion Group to land on our planet and demonstrate remarkable powers and get people like that? I am Ra. This first instance is, in the long run, shall we put it, more salubrious for the Orion Group in that it does not infringe upon the law of one by landing and, thus, does its work through those of this planet. In the second circumstance, a mass landing would create a loss of polarization due to the infringement upon the free will of the planet. However, it would be a gamble. If the planet were conquered and became part of the empire, the free will would then be reestablished. This is restrained in action due to the desire of the Orion Group to progress towards the one creator. This desire to progress inhibits the group from breaking the law of confusion. Questioner: You mentioned the word empire in relation to the Orion Group. I have thought for some time that the movie Star Wars was somehow an allegory for what is actually happening. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is correct in the same way that a simple children's story is an allegory for physical, philosophical, social complex distortion understanding. Questioner: Is there a harvest of entities oriented towards service to self, like there is a harvest of those oriented towards service to others? I am Ra. There is one harvest. Those able to enter fourth density through vibrational complex levels may choose the manner of their further seeking of the one creator. Questioner: Then as we enter the fourth density, there will be a split, shall we say, and part of the individuals who go into the fourth density will go into planets or places where there is service to others, and part will go into places where there is service to self. Is this correct? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: Can you tell me the origin of the 10 Commandments? I am Ra. The origin of these commandments follows the law of negative entities impressing information upon positively oriented mind-body-spirit complexes. The information attempted to copy or ape positivity while retaining negative characteristics. Questioner: Was this done by the Orion Group? I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner: What was their purpose in doing this? I am Ra. The purpose of the Orion Group, as mentioned before, is conquest and enslavement. This is done by finding and establishing an elite and causing others to serve the elites through various devices such as the laws you mentioned and others given by this entity.